Dynamite hits 300 episodes tonight. I have been through it all, through the highs and the lows of the first 300 episodes of their flagship show of AEW Dynamite. I've got a special episode here of Screw the Script. I'm going to let you know my favorite moments of all Dynamite episodes in the first 300. You let me know down below what some of your favorite moments are ever in AEW Dynamite history. Let's get into this special episode of Screw the Script. Before I get into my favorite Dynamite moments ever, I just wanted to make mention of this quick thing here that I'll share with you guys on the screen, and you can look at it while I look at it. Tony Khan earlier today put out this stat that further proves what I've been saying for months now, that 2025 is a resurgence year for AEW. I mean, look at the stats don't lie. Up 28% starting with Collision. And this is from the fourth quarter of 2024, where I've said multiple times now on this channel, this is where they've really started to pick things back up, was the tail end of 2024, heading into 2025, and it really helped them with the start of 2025 and so forth. And then you see up 8% for Dynamite as well. And then you got Collision again, up 25% more, Dynamite up 7% more. And then those different colors, you see Q4 and then Q1 and Q2 of 2025. And look at that, an increase for both shows in every single quarter so far. That is huge, monumental success for AEW after having a down 2 years, that was 2022 and 2023. Their first 3 years were great. Their next two, for the most part of 2024 anyway, it wasn't very good for them, but they ended 2024 on a high note. In 2025, I will say it again, has been their year. This is their year of pro wrestling. They, in my humble opinion, are blowing WWE out of the water with everything. Promo segments, matches they've always have, but even more so this year because TKO seems to not like matches ever anymore. And just to go off tangent for a moment, you see that over in WWE, and I hate seeing people get injured. I'm not happy that these people have got injured. I just want to say that now. But their whole longevity shtick that they have going on isn't really working out for them now, is it? You've got some of their best wrestlers that they feature weekly shelved right now. Chad Gable is injured for months, it looks like. He just had surgery. Liv Morgan is hurt. She had shoulder surgery of some sorts. Drew McIntyre has been injured. Logan Paul is injured. I mean, the list keeps going on. There's more people than that, but that's just to name a few that were featured weekly on Raw. So to go back into Dynamite, like, yeah, they do wrestling better. They just flat out do. I don't know how you can argue otherwise. I mean, I never reviewed Night of Champions because I just didn't get the time to do it. I watched it after the fact, and I will just touch on it quickly before I get back into more AEW stuff. The main event, again, was nothing but John Cena and CM Punk hitting each other's signature moves and finishers over and over and over. And maybe a few moves here and there between the two of them. You watch, and we'll get into it later when I mention one of my favorite Dynamite moments ever in the first 300 episodes. You watch a typical main event on a Dynamite, it's not even close. The wrestling is just better. Anyways, back to AEW. So yes, they have nailed it out of the park in 2025. Promos, matches, their pay-per-views are way better. They just are. And these numbers prove it. And this doesn't even include the streams that they get on Max. I've watched it on Max since they moved to Max. So I'm not even one of those in this this graph that was shared by Tony Khan. And I know there's many others like it. You know, you have the haters that want to say, oh, well, it can't be that many people. It's 2025. A lot of people stream. There is a very good chance that about 500,000 people do stream it now because it is now available in more countries because of it going to Max. Some people never got eyes on a product to begin with and now do because of Max. I humbly do believe that they probably are hitting 1 million consistently every week now, which is great. They're only 6 years old. Then real quick, I just want to share 2 more screenshots that I have here of just, stats that was shared leading up to Dynamite 300 tonight. Most Dynamite matches you have here. Jon Moxley. Say what you want about him. Say what you want about the Death Rider storyline. I mean, I myself also don't really care for it, but he has been a workhorse since the beginning. He debuted at the end of the very first episode back in 2019, and he has wrestled so many matches. I mean, 129, so almost half of every single Dynamite episodes that have been aired. He's wrestled a match. Now that's a workhorse. 393 unique wrestlers appeared. They like to say we're the best wrestle. I also want to just kind of joke and say this, we're the most wrestle. I mean, 393 unique wrestlers have appeared in 300 episodes of Dynamite. That's a lot. That is a lot. Mercedes Moné will have a huge career match tonight on AEW Dynamite. 1,000 matches. She'll hit 1,000 by tonight. That is also a great stat. And then that last one, 251 title fights in the first 299 episodes. That's almost, do the quick math, that's almost an episode. They basically, almost every episode, have had some sort of title defense. Again, further proving that is where the best wrestle. You don't see that typically on Raw, especially now. And the off chance that you do happen to see a title match on Raw, it never ends cleanly. Rarely does. Somebody gets involved to further their storylines, Not over in AEW. 251 matches. Title matches in 299 episodes. That is huge. Now to talk about just a handful of my favorite moments ever in Dynamite history. There's more, but I don't want to go on for, 2 hours. I very much could in this video, but I'm not. I'm going to save you guys time. The Dinner Debonair episode with MJF and Chris Jericho a handful of years back was one of the most unique wrestling episodes you'll ever see. If you haven't seen it, at least go on YouTube and watch this segment. I didn't realize how well MJF could sing until this episode. We all knew Chris Jericho could because of his band Fozzy, but this was one of the many things early on in Dynamite's history that helped MJF just skyrocket to the top. He's a man that can do anything, and this was a fun segment, so it's always something that I look back on. Another moment, unfortunately a sad moment, but it is still something that also sticks to the back of my mind and forever will in Dynamite history, and that was the Brody Lee Celebration of Life episode. Such a touching tribute to a great wrestler that we all lost too soon, so suddenly. I remember turning to a friend the moment I saw it on social media, and I just freaked for a second. And I thought it was fake. I was, like everybody else, wishing it was fake. But unfortunately, it wasn't. And we saw Brody Lee, unfortunately, his life ended. He left behind his great son, his wife, and boy, was this just a beautiful episode. I did tear up, I'm not going to lie. I'm sure many of you did. And I mean, even a touching photo of, a memory that also sticks in my mind of Tony Khan just hugging Brody Lee's son, who is now, I think, a teenager at this point. You can say what you want about Tony Khan, call him a cracked out owner, or, all these negative derogatory comments towards him, but he is a human being just like all of us, and he expresses emotions towards his wrestlers better than I think any manager or any guy who runs a wrestling company. He does it better than Mr. McMahon ever did. I can say that much. Triple H does express here and there, but you can tell it's more for just a business aspect. I really truly believe he's got his negatives, obviously. He's not perfect. Everybody has flaws, but I really truly think Tony Khan genuinely cares about every single wrestler personally and not just, financially. He cares about all of them. And that photo with him and Brody's son, such a touching moment. Of course, you can't forget or leave out, in my opinion, the debut of Sting. Yes, it happened at a unique time in life. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. No need to regurgitate stuff that has been said about those years. by so many people in social media and everything, but still nonetheless one of the greatest moments in Dynamite history. The legend Sting truly got the send-off that he deserved in AEW, especially his last match. I will never forget that. But granted, that was at, a pay-per-view. We're talking about strictly just Dynamite moments. You have to put the debut of Sting up there. And he helped Darby Allin so much early on in Darby's career to just, also become one of the staples in AEW. And I can't wait for him to come back. He successfully made that climb on Everest. He's got a Shark Week thing going on coming up as well. Like, the dude does it all as well, just like MJF. And I just want to personally thank Sting for helping him out. You have to include the very first episode. I think you just kind of have to. The very first episode of Dynamite, all the way back in 2019. It was a great card. The very first match was Sammy Guevara and Cody Rhodes. One guy who's not even, with the company anymore, but, I thank him for helping start AEW. And, Sammy Guevara now has a child married to Ty Mello. I have been seeing that he is going to eventually make a career comeback, but I get it. He's tied down. I have kids myself. But we all know the ending of that episode is what I'm talking about. Jon Moxley's debut. This is when the wrestling world was like, holy shit, AEW is definitely competition. They just landed who was formerly known as Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley. He was the biggest free agent in pro wrestling in quite some time leading up to this moment, and they snagged him immediately. Him along with Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, in that photo that I just shared. They had a great staple amount of wrestlers early on in AEW that helped 2019. I still think 2019 overall was their best year. 2025 is shaping up to be just as good, if not as good, as 2019. Now, I wanted to put this as my favorite, but it was kind of, I couldn't put it as my favorite because it's kind of favoritism in a way. But the Dynamite episode of Quake by the Lake is definitely one up there for me. I was there live, and I'm not going to put it number one because just personally, it would only be number one for me personally. But I think as an overarching theme to this episode that you guys are listening to and watching right now, I truly have it in there because I was there live. I got to see that coffin match between Darby and Brody King. It was damn good. I got to see Lionheart, Chris Jericho, and all those other things that happened at Quake by the Lake. And it was a very, very fun event. I've been to other events for AEW. I've been to a handful at this point, but this was still my absolute favorite that I've been to. And that is why I will never forget that episode of Dynamite. And then number one, in my mind, I'm wearing his shirt, so again, maybe a little biased, but I do think Kenny Omega's arguably one of the best wrestlers ever in modern day wrestling. He's right up there with that guy behind me. And his match with Bryan Danielson at Grand Slam, AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, went to the time limit draw, one of the best matches of the decade. Of the last 2 decades, honestly, of 2000 on, ever. From 2000 on, I would say one of the best American matches ever. I'm locking that in my humble opinion, one of the best matches ever. And that 25, well, at the time, I think it was 22, because I think it happened in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but yeah, over a 20-year stretch of time, it really was. It's up there for me personally. It's up there with the likes of Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 21. It's up there with, Shawn Michaels versus Taker at 25 and all these great matches ever to happen on American soil. It's up there. It really is. And it was just on a fucking episode of Dynamite, nonetheless. And that's why I think in my mind, that is probably my number one moment. That's all I had in this episode of Screw the Script. You let me know down below some of your favorite all-time moments of Dynamite as we head into the episode tonight. I really want to hear you guys' thoughts. And lastly, just a special thanks. I know he's probably never going to watch this, but, thank you, Tony Khan, for starting this business. And thank you, Kenny Omega. Even though they're controversial, thank you, the Young Bucks. Thank you, Cody Rhodes, even though he's not with AEW anymore. Adam Page. all of those guys that helped pioneer, and Chris Jericho helped pioneer AEW and get them to where they're at today. It wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Tony Khan's funding, and it wouldn't exist with those 5 wrestlers that I mentioned as well. I truly don't think it would have. I don't think it would have lasted 300 episodes of Dynamite if those 5 wrestlers weren't involved along with Tony Khan. So special thanks to you guys out there. This has been Maverick with Screw the Script. Thanks for watching.